84 to 94% of all human error can be directly attributed to process, programmatic, or organizational issues. What the heck does that mean? Who can tell us? What does that mean? Yes?
That those are preventable.
That those are preventable. Very good. Does anybody want to add to that? Yes?
Autopilot.
Autopilot. What do you mean by that?
Just go ahead and follow some program or process without giving it too much thought.
Okay, and when we do that, what do we increase our likelihood of doing?
If there are error prone, then you just continue on with the errors.
Okay.
As opposed to looking for ways to eliminate it.
Okay, very good. Does everybody understand what he said? If we just follow these processes or whatever without actively engaging our brain, and that's very good because we're actually going to talk more about that later, and the process is error prone, what are we very likely to do? Create errors. The idea behind this is anytime somebody ends up on the sharp end of the stick, meaning they made a mistake, okay? And I mean, let's have some consequence to it. Not just some little thing that we caught along the way and we fixed it, but let's say it's something, maybe you made an error in a calculation and it made it all the way through a process and maybe through the next process, and by the time it was discovered, it ended up costing, 3 or 4 days of rework. That would be a consequential mistake. 84 to 94% of the time that happens, something in the system, whether it was the process, policies, the program, the way the organizational structure is set up, the communications flow paths, whatever, something set us up to make that mistake. Now, does that relieve us of all accountability and culpability in that situation? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But at the same time, we want to recognize this because this stuff's out there setting us up to make mistakes. Now, here's the deal. These aspects of the organization that are out there, and I'll give you a quick little example that we hear about from the guys in the field all the time. All the time. Drawings that do not accurately reflect as-built conditions. Guys in the field, without reservation, that one always comes up, okay? That's a setup for those guys to make mistakes. If they just blindly follow, for example, whatever the drawing is showing them and aren't paying attention to what the actual conditions are, it's a classic setup for mistakes. Now, when we have something like that, for example, a drawing that does not accurately reflect as-built conditions, that is what's referred to as a latent organizational weakness. Now, I could care less whether you remember that term. My job here today is not to teach you a whole bunch of jargon about human performance. What I want you to remember is those things are like landmines. Just sitting there waiting for somebody to step on. And you can probably think of different types of directives or specs or regs or something in your area that you have to work around all the time. You know that there are errors and ambiguities and things in that, and you just work around them. So it's like this landmine here, and you know it's there, but you just, you're dancing around it all the time because you know it's there. So you're working around it, which is something I kind of like to call a workaround. Pretty unique term, huh? So you're working around that, and but guess what? You've done this 100 times before, but today is day number 101, and maybe you're not fully thinking about what you're doing, or conditions are slightly different, and boom, you step on that sucker. Now, here's the ultimate question. You guys know where those landmines are. Whose responsibility is it to dig those things up and get rid of them? It's yours. It's ours. If you know where those things are, it's your responsibility to dig them up and get rid of them. Because I'd be willing to bet every single one of you knows where a lot of those landmines are, and you probably have a pretty darn good idea on how to fix them if you've been here any time at all. So start fixing them. That's all part of constant and never-ending improvement. You see, we combine the digging up and getting rid of the landmines with the use of the tools, which helps take care of the human nature side of things, and that's how we drive that incidence of human error ever and ever, ever lower, and ultimately prevent events from occurring. That's how it all fits together.